Just search on YouTube, Joe Rogan podcast, Kanye West. It's like it's just under a 3-hour interview. It was a long-awaited interview that I guess for a while now there's been talks between him and Joe Rogan that he would come on. But of course, he chose, I guess, this moment in time, possibly because he's actually on the ballot in this political race right now, and people are actually voting for this motherfucker. Well, and anyways,
we all can do it, bro.
I gotta say something, and I've said a lot of things about Kanye West on this show. My thoughts on him in the past. If you watch this show, you may have heard some of them over time. My thoughts of him have changed over time. I said, you know, at first, because there was that the last thing we talked about was whether or not he was an actual genius, like some people say he is.
Yeah.
I said I don't think he is. I think he was. I said I think he's possibly a musical genius. Absolutely, even based off his first few albums. I think musically he's a genius.
Yeah.
Like, but a genius in the sense that like everything else he talks about, not so much.
After hearing just the beginning,
so,
and I figured that about,
so I kind of stuck into just over about 2 hours of this interview, and I gotta say, and it may be because of the way his mind works and that he's medicated, and everything like that. But you gotta first,
you got a serious disease, bro.
Yes. And he's obviously sick and medicated and the way, but his mind, so I want to word this. Down these rabbit holes, I want to word this. I want to word this right. Because I have a lot of thoughts on it. Yeah. I did. After 2 hours, I got to say, after 2 hours of watching this interview, I have nothing. I took away nothing from this interview. That's kind of, yeah, you would say that since you picked him for the battle this Friday, but
he must have had that all set up.
Here's the thing. There's morsels of genius to be found there. And I think but his mind is, and he explains it during this interview as well. He does talk about this because I think his mind is still working ahead of itself, trying to connect the dots to like different points he's trying to make. Okay. But there's like this disconnect from the point of that thought to the execution of that thought.
So from the beginning to the end. Right. There's a bunch of shit that happens in between.
So as he's trying to formulate his thoughts and try to make a point, he'll bounce to 7 different things. And he'll make reference to like a lot of pop culture things. Like 1 second, he'll be talking about the presidential race. Next thing, he's talking about the music business. Then from there, he's talking about some Black Mirror episode. Then from there, he's talking about some fucking movie. Then from there, he's talking about fucking Star Wars. So like, you know, these are some of the subjects that he talked about. Everything I just said there, he brought up during and now it's also being channeled by his whole new religious kind of awakening,
cult or whatever he wants to call it.
I don't want to call it a cult. He is part of a church, and he is
made his own church, and people are following him.
So I just think that there's morsels of things and thoughts and things he's trying to discuss, I think, in the conversation that was being had with Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, I think he's just a smart, I think he's just a smart interviewer because he knows when to let these guys ramble. And he catches himself, honestly. And I would just say the same thing. And I was just about to get into that, Max. Absolutely. And that's why I'm trying to say a lot of people, they compare. Yeah. It's a lot of the conversation. I think that JT's in the same way is very much like Kanye West.
I was just going to ask you, do you think that do you feel like, because I can get like that. The way he's talking, I can really fall, and that's why you want to get your point across before I start going up.
But that's being manic in every sense of the word for his disease. Like that's what I mean. Like it's he's showcasing it every time he opens his mouth. I feel like in the interview, and Joe Rogan knows not to say nothing. He rambles for 2 hours. And he touches on multiple different subjects. But can you pin down anything solid that he actually said during that conversation?
Even I couldn't.